This is the U-Show Podcast.
The Cup has returned to Sioux Falls! The Stampede are Clark Cup champions! Say it with me, Sioux Falls! Yeah, baby!
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome in to the very first U-Show Podcast featuring myself and voice of the Des Moines Buccaneers, Ben Gisselson. Ben, how are we doing, my friend?
Well, considering the circumstances, I would say well. Considering I'm an extrovert, being secluded in my house with my luckily lovely wife, that's been helpful. But as an extrovert, being enclosed has been difficult, to say the least. But staying busy, obviously trying to mine for content as best as we can here, which I know the league's been doing a lot of, and all of our member teams have been doing a lot of that, but I've really been looking forward to this, Chris, and obviously what we have in store for all of our listeners.
So this is something that, we've been talking about for a while, but with the circumstances around, the world and in our country and everything, this is a good time to start this up to keep people not only informed on the USHL, but to make the U-Show podcast something where we're going to talk to alumni and do things like that. So it's something I'm really excited. Thanks for, helping out the league, myself being with the league office, you being with the Des Moines Buccaneers. It's nice to get that perspective from the league and then someone from, a team in the league as well. So thank you for, helping out with this. And I'm really excited. I think we have a lot of cool things in store for this podcast going forward.
Yeah, I'm grateful to, first and foremost, yourself, as well as Brent Meskey, League Media Director, for this opportunity. Also grateful to the Buccaneer organization for allowing me to take some of my time during our work days from home to jump on here with you guys and do interviews or do our recording. So, we're storytellers in the media world, and I think one of the big things for me that I'm looking forward to with this show is this league has cultivated such great alumni, not only players, but personalities, right? So how can we capitalize on the fact that so many of these really achieved alumni of ours right now are doing what we're doing? They're sitting at home and yes, they're staying in shape, as some of the guys we've talked to have made sure they're doing. They're probably not sitting on the couch as much as you and I are, Chris, but
Sure.
But nonetheless, let's talk about some stories. Let's talk about their USHL days, because more often than not, the players that we've talked to speak so glowingly about their time in the USHL, whether it be from a playing perspective or, as we've come to find out, to a coaching perspective. So lots of people that have nothing but good things to say about the USHL. And what's cool about, too, that we've learned is we're talking to people from a lot of different ages of the USHL. We've seen this league change a lot from 1990 to 2000 to 2010, so on and so forth. And we've got a lot of different people that have seen this league during different ages of its time. So I think it's going to be really neat to get those different perspectives from some very recent players and also from some players that both played and coached at one point a lot further back in the annals of USHL history.
Yeah, for sure. And, the only experience I had with USHL is I went to, growing up in Fort Wayne, I went to some Indiana Ice games because my buddy played for Sioux City. One of my best friends, Jackson Leaf, who's in the ECHL now, I went to see him play. So bits and pieces. Growing up in the Midwest, I obviously knew about the USHL, but working in the ECHL and 1 year in the AHL, hearing guys talk about the USHL, there's just it's a very passionate pride the USHL guys have. So that's why I was excited when this opportunity came up, to work in the league office with Brent. It's been a pleasure, obviously, this year to work with everybody, but just to see firsthand how classy of a league it is and why these players love the league so much when they leave. There's just I don't want to say the word strange, but it's a strange pride that they have and how much these guys love where they came from and the league they came from. And we're really seeing that in the interviews we're doing with these players and what they're saying about, how well the league is ran, how much fun they had, and how great of an experience they had in the USHL. And we're privileged to take those interviews and bring them to you, and a way to pass some time and a way to, get to know these guys, because USHL fans, I know you guys take pride in this league just as much as the players do. So bringing it full circle, I think this is a great thing for the league, and this is going to be a lot of fun.
I got to mention, you bring up your first USHL experience. For some of our older listeners that might remember this team, I grew up in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. My first USHL game with my father was the St. Paul Vulcans, downtown St. Paul. So I remember loving going to those games. As a kid, I don't think I had any clue who these players were, because as a young kid, you think, okay, you've got the NHL, and then for me, it was the Minnesota Gophers. So who are the Vulcans? But I remember loving going to those games. And so obviously what you've come to realize when you get older is that a lot of very big name players come through this league back when they weren't as big of household names. So indeed, we're going to have some of those household names, and I'm really looking forward to it.
So we touched on it a little bit, but before we get into this, we're the two that are going to be the main figures going forward on the podcast, interviewing all these people, bringing you all the info as signings, tenders, the draft, all that stuff comes in. So why don't you go first, introduce yourself, tell us what you do for the Des Moines Buccaneers and all that fun stuff.
Well, I think a better way to describe it, and just about everybody that works in media in the USHL can answer this way, it's what don't you do for an organization? I mean, a lot of these organizations are very small, and so you take on a lot of different hats, right? I mean, the thing that I love the most is the play-by-play side of the game, so calling all 62 regular season games and then into playoffs for us, which is streamed on Hockey TV, and then we do our audio stream on MixLR. But it's social media, it's video content creation. I handle the community relations with the Buccaneers, trying to get our players out into the community, which is something that's a big staple of our organization and has been for a very long time. And it's a lot of odds and ends stuff. Our management, if they listen to this podcast, will laugh, because I told them when I was interviewing now 3 seasons ago, 2017, the summer of 2017, I said, if you let me call games on the weekend, I'll drive the Zamboni at the rink if I have to. And lo and behold, my first summer there, after my first season, they needed a part-time Zamboni driver. So I did drive the Zam a little bit during the summer. So yeah. It's kind of a little bit of everything. Jack of all trades, master of none, kind of, I suppose. But it's been a joy for me, the joy of my career so far, to work in this league and to work with some great people here in Des Moines.
And for sure. And I was a play-by-play guy with the Atlanta Gladiators for 4 seasons before jumping to the league side of things. And I spent 1 year in the AHL with the one and done Adirondack Flames, the 1 year of the Flames having their affiliate in beautiful Glens Falls, New York. But like you said, we can do everything. You talk about the Zamboni, and I have a funny saying when I interview too, is I say, I can do everything for your team with the exception of scoring goals. And if you need me, I'll stand in front of the net too. So I think it goes underappreciated what a lot of people do from your perspective, from Brent's perspective in the league office, the amount of stuff he does when he puts these massive draft lists together of all the draft eligible players. It's like 400 kids that he just, bangs out quickly and just does things so efficiently. I mean, the media side is incredible. And to see all you guys do it in the USHL and then eventually go up and, go throughout the ranks. Like I said, it's very unappreciated. And so, kudos to you guys, because so many great broadcasters and media people around the USHL. So I'm looking forward to working with you, because I've heard your stuff all year. And so it's going to be exciting time for me. For those that don't know, do a little bit on camera stuff, reporting, at the Frosty Cup, and, hopefully at the draft when it happens, we'll get to do that. But all the graphics you see, all the videos you see, and a lot of the social media stuff you see, I have my hand in, work with Brent. I'll call myself his assistant. Why not? And that standpoint, I'll put him on a pedestal. I watch every single USHL game because I got to clip all the fun stuff and all the goals. So I haven't missed a game all year. So I considered myself to have a little bit of a good perspective on what happened this season. So the only time I missed any games was for my girlfriend's birthday and when I was flying from a trip once. So, but I went back and I still watched all the highlights of those games. So
one might call you the most in the know media member of the USHL, considering what you just said, that you have rarely missed a game, and that means any game, not just a game of a team that you may or may not have worked for. So kudos on that, I should say.
Well, hey, that's my thing. I didn't want to get into hockey to not watch hockey and not take it seriously, right?
No doubt.
We work in the sport we love because we love it. going forward, the way the podcast will be set up, we'll talk about what's going on in the league, and then we'll interview someone. We don't have an interview for this one because we wanted to keep it short, simple, make it more of an introductory thing. But, we do have a little bit of news. But, first things first, it stings a bit that, such a great season was lost due to everything. But I think the way the league handled it, and I'm not saying this biasly at all with a bias by any means, but the way the league handled it was very good, very professional. It does sting, but it's the right thing to do. This is unprecedented times. Like, it's the world's a crazy place right now. We'll all get through it together. We lose a season because of it, but don't need to think about what could have happened. We need to reflect on what did happen, because there's a lot of great things. We still got the draft. A lot of kids are going to see their dreams come true whenever this draft does happen. A lot of these players are going to move on to college. Some players are going to come back and play in the USHL again. So I know you're staying positive. I'm staying positive. Everyone around the league is staying positive, and everyone out there is doing the same thing.
Well, you look at it from the league perspective, and the thing that was crazy for, I think, everybody was once the NBA postponed, everything in the sports world went dark, right? Everybody went, okay, well, if that domino just fell, what other dominoes are going to fall behind it? And so, of course, that next day, I think it was a Wednesday night, maybe, where the NBA made their announcement. That next Thursday, I mean, basically what I was doing was getting a press release ready just in case. Even though I didn't know what was happening, I didn't have any window inside of it. I just knew that our president's door was shut. Our head coach was on a conference call with our owners, and those owners had been on a conference call with the league and the executive board. And we obviously had the NHL Network on because we were curious about what was going to happen there. So you get the postponement, which obviously was the prudent thing to do, because you don't want to have a knee-jerk reaction, just cancel right away, just in case this thing were to take a better direction in a few days after the official announcement happens. So you postpone, you say, for now, we know that we're not going to have any gatherings. We're going to try to sort this thing out and see what kind of direction we're going to head in. They take their time. They have a longer, extended, more formal meeting between all the ownership groups as well as the executive board to make a more final decision. And then, obviously with the current state of the way things are in now, you can only look back at it and say, obviously, it's 100% the right decision. So yeah, definitely, you look at the league and the way they handled it, and you may look at it as a fan thinking, I want hockey, but considering where we're all at right now, pretty much isolated in our homes, I can't imagine there are many people out there that can sit and say, well, we should still be playing hockey at this point, because at the end of the day, it is still a game. We love it so much, and you may laugh thinking, well, you've poured your heart and soul and life into this game, which is true for both you and I, Chris, and for a lot of our players and our coaches, et cetera, et cetera. But this is bigger than hockey right now, and so all we can really do is try to make the most of our situation, which I think is a big reason why you and I are sitting here trying to put this podcast together today. And so we're hoping to give a little bit of a taste of what we can of hockey and USHL hockey, even in the midst of what is, like you said, an unprecedented situation.
Let's get to some USHL news now. Since the league just halted, we're treating it just like Games 5 of the Clark Cup Championship's over. We have a champion. Boom, off-season started. So now the tender window has opened, and teams are already starting to sign kids, and the next top prospects in the USHL are now entering the league with their tender agreements.
Well, and just because the season ends prematurely in a way doesn't mean that all of our clubs' GMs weren't obviously operating as if the season was going to continue and that they needed to be looking at next season. It's one of the interesting parts about our league that I can't wait to actually ask some of the coaches and guys who have been GMs in our league about. I want to talk about that fine line of how do you focus on winning this year, but developing players to move on, and also cultivating a culture to create success year in and year out. You look at some of the teams in this league that have found a way to win every single year, the Waterloos, the Chicagos recently. Fargo's been a team that's won a lot over the past 5 to 6 seasons as well. They're constantly in the playoff push. That's not an easy job, because the primary focus of the USHL is development, right? But you want to win too. You don't just want to be a team that sends so many players on to college, but they don't make the playoffs every year. So it's a fine line of how do you tiptoe that line between too much focus on, well, we're going to focus on next year, or too much focus on this year, and then you wind up with a team the year after that has sent all of its players on to college. So the tender process has been a big component of that, because it's a little bit more of an agreement between the teams, right? The draft, you could draft a player, and for whatever reason, they might not be coming in. They might end up going to school. They might wind up in a different junior league. But a tender agreement is that agreement between an organization and a player saying, you're going to come here, you're going to play here. And this is a decision the players get a little more say in it, which as a former player, I can say that that's a great thing to have. I actually signed a tender in the North American League back when I played. Different process in the NA than it is in the USHL, but to have a little bit of the power of the pen from a player perspective is a great thing.
So let's get right to it. We did have some big signings, and as we mentioned, some big name kids that have tendered in the league, and hopefully, they've committed to a certain team. Hopefully they stay with that. The first one, Chicago. First day they were allowed to, they jumped right into it, and they picked up a young defenseman from the Arizona Junior Coyotes, Jake Livanovich. And, he looks like a good young player. And obviously, with how much of a powerhouse Chicago is becoming, they're not going to waste a tender on a subpar player. So expect Jake to come in and really make an impact with the steal. So some other tenders from around the league. Waterloo picked up Michael Lastarza. And he was one of the top scorers for Shattuck St. Mary's. That's a big-time hockey program. Sidney Crosby played for them, Zach Parise. So, big name guys come out of that. And to have a guy who's a top scorer in that high school program in Minnesota, Waterloo's picking up a really good player there. Muskegon signed a tender for the forward from the Buffalo Junior Sabres, Owen Mellenbacher. Another, great young talent. Nick Pierre from Hill Murray School in Minnesota. He was one of the top players in Minnesota last year. He signs with the Sioux City Musketeers, keeping the green theme going as he keeps the green colors from his high school to the green of the Sioux City Musketeers. So that's a big tender for them. The youngster out of Florida, Gavin Brendley, the Florida Alliance from the Fort Myers area, he signs a tender with the Tri-City Storm. So it's another big pickup, and the Storm completed their tender window with a D from Select Hockey Academy. Vinny Borghese signs with them. And then the big one, the final tender that we have so far is Adam Fantilli from Kimball Union Academy. He signs a tender with Chicago Steel. And Ben, this is a big one because it's huge for the league as a whole. He was expected to be the top pick in the OHL draft, which, you're not the top pick in the OHL draft if you're an average hockey player. Come to the USHL. His brother also is going to play for Chicago next year. And, like you said, a tender, he can still elect to play somewhere else. And I think his OHL draft stock might differ because he signed this tender and he's told places he wants to go to college. He wants to play in the USHL, and he's going to, pick Chicago to do so. But it's a big signing for the league because that brings one of the top prospects, and he's a potential top 5 pick for his draft year. He's an 04. It was a big day for the USHL. And when Bob McKenzie's tweeting about how big of a signing it is, it's a big signing.
Well, you think about the trajectory of the league over the last 5, 10, 15 seasons, and 10, 15 years ago, I don't think that many, if anybody, would have even opened up the argument to say, well, the USHL and the OHL are on the same plane. That argument is starting to become a real discussion now because of signings like this, because of Fantilli, because of the college model, because you're seeing collegiate hockey players make impact at the NHL level. And not that you didn't in the past, but you're seeing so many more of them now. It begs the question, if Patrick Kane were coming into his junior eligibility in today's day and age, would he still go to the OHL? That question might be a much more of a hard question to answer in 2020 than it was back pre-2010 when he came into the league. So it's a testament to our GMs, to our coaches, to our organizations to say, we are a legitimate junior league. Yes, USHL has been since its inception, but not only are we going to send kids to college, which this league continues to do better than any other junior league in the world, but we're going to get kids pro ready. And you talk about the schedules that these teams have every weekend. The fact that you're not playing 2-game sets. We don't go to Lincoln and play Lincoln back-to-back that often. We'll go to Lincoln, then we'll go to Kearney, or Chicago will go to Muskegon, and then they'll go to Youngstown. That's a pro-type schedule because you have to get your players ready not only for the speed, the skill that pro hockey is going to bring, but there's a lifestyle that pro hockey brings that you are needing to get ready for, and the college ranks are going to help you get there from the skill perspective, from the treating your body like a temple perspective. But the schedule in college is different. You're playing back-to-back nights, oftentimes in the same building. If not, you're not traveling very far to go play a home-and-home. You look at some of the Hockey East conference play that you see where teams have very short travel to play each other. Look at BU and BC. And you're only playing probably 40-some games. But in the USHL, you've got 62. You may get up into the 70s if you play into the playoffs. And it's getting players pro-ready. And that, again, to go back to my initial point, that discussion of where does the USHL lie in connection with the OHL, the WHL, the QMJHL, the three major Canadian Hockey League powers that have been kind of the pillars of where do players come from into the NHL over the last 50 to 100 years. That plane is much more similar now, and that's obviously a great thing not only for the USHL, but for American hockey and for USA hockey to boot.
And the kid's Canadian. He's from Toronto. We're seeing a lot of Canadians coming, ironically, playing in the United States Hockey League, whereas in the past that was an anomaly, right? Mm-hmm. Guys would go out west and play in those junior leagues and then go to college. They're picking the USHL, even being from Canada. Reese Gaber is a Canadian, and he had himself one heck of a season. He scored a highlight reel goal pretty much every game. To have this kid from the beginning say, pick the USHL. Like I said, it still might change. I'm not trying to jinx it. To have him from the beginning say, I'm going to go play in the USHL is huge because it's legitimizing the league. Jack Hughes and all those guys from the program last season, that really helped legitimize the league. And not that it's not been legitimate throughout its history, but it's just starting to get the respect that it deserves. And guys are starting to see too, I can go play in the USHL. I can play 1 year of college. If I like college and maybe I want to get a degree, I'll stay. If not, you can leave. Guys in the past, they played 4 years of college no matter what. So these guys that go to college for one season, Dylan Larkin, Kyle Connor, they'll go play their 1 year, maybe 2 years of college, and then they're out. And they go play in the NHL and they do what they were going to do originally. So why not get that extra year development? And if you don't need that extra year development, you're drafted. Boom. Finn Tilley, welcome to the league. Welcome to the rest of you. There's going to be some tenders still coming throughout the league as the weeks move along. So welcome to the USHL. We hope to see you guys have a lot of success, and we'll wait to see some tenders come out of Des Moines so you can get even more into it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully know a lot more than I do about the current guys we've seen come up. But I think we've taken up enough of the people's quarantine time today. Let's bring it home with who we've got coming up on our, I shouldn't call it our first episode, but it will be our first real episode with some pretty exciting alumni that we've got coming your way. Chris, set the stage for us.
And we're going to start it off with a bang. Not just one, we'll have two guests at the same exact time, and it's two big name NHL coaches. So they're good friends. They'll come on together. So we're expecting some fun banter, and that'll be Tampa Bay Lightning head coach John Cooper, the Detroit Red Wings head coach Jeff Blashill. So Ben, I know you're excited for these two because not only are they good buddies, we'll have some good banter between them, but they're two great alumni, two great dudes. So this is going to be a really fun one to have them both on at the same time.
I can't wait to ask them about the 2009 USHL Eastern Conference Finals and the 2010 USHL Eastern Conference Finals because 2009 Indiana Ice win the Clark Cup. Guess who they went past to get to the Clark Cup Finals in the Eastern Conference that year? Green Bay Gamblers. Of course, Jeff Blashill, head coach of Indiana. John Cooper, head coach of Green Bay that year. Next season, Green Bay wins the Clark Cup. Exact same scenario in the Eastern Finals, and Blashill loses to Cooper. So I'm really looking forward to those two divulging what those series were like because that had to be a war, back-to-back years like that. And they're had to be some memories that hadn't faded about losing the year prior from Green Bay. And I think it'll be fun to have, like you said, two guys who get along with each other very well. We're hoping to get a pretty candid look at how both of those two interact with each other when we get that interview rolling. If anybody has any ideas of people we should get at that maybe we haven't thought of, please comment them on this post. I think it'd be great to hear from the fans about maybe there's someone, again, that we haven't come up with yet that the fans really want to hear from. So let us know, and we'll do our best to get to those people. But Chris, thank you. The USHL and Brent and everybody involved, thank you, and can't wait to be back on here with you here in not too long.
So that shall do it. For Ben Gesselson, I'm Chris Treft, and we will leave you with a sneak peek of next week's episode with John Cooper and Jeff Blashill. This was the USHL Podcast.
My Rocky. And now when we go play the Flyers, have you done this? I don't know if you've done it, but we've had the fun nights where we took the cab to run up the steps and take a picture with Rock.
The difference between me and Coop is I've actually run from the hotel to that step, run up the stairs and took the picture.
There is a lot of truth, yeah.
So that's the difference, just so you guys know.
This is the USHL Podcast.